Welcome back to Wellworthy Weekly. This week we're talking about what chronic stress really does. We often talk about stress like it's a feeling, whether it's tension, pressure, or even burnout, but stress is about a lot more than your emotions. Every time your brain perceives pressure, whether it's a looming deadline or just constant uncertainty, your body enters a biological cascade. Signals are sent to your hypothalamus, your adrenal glands then release cortisol and adrenaline, and then your body diverts energy towards immediate survival. Chronic stress is when that response stays on. And in this state, the nervous system never fully resets. Over time, this creates something called the allostatic load. What this essentially is the accumulated wear and tear from the body trying to maintain balance under this constant strain. And what's interesting is that researchers can now measure that wear. Some of the ways in which they can do this is through blood pressure, inflammatory markers, blood sugar, and cortisol patterns. Through these measurements, they can predict everything from immune dysfunction to metabolic disease. So while you may think and experience the stress and the result feels invisible at first, for instance, it may be fatigue, poor sleep, digestive issues, or even just irritability. Inside your body, the cost adds up, kind of like credit card interest. So what exactly is the science behind this damage, and how does this accumulated damage manifest in some of the chronic illnesses that we see today? So heart disease is one of the leading causes of death in America. So I'm going to start with how this impacts your cardiovascular system. Constant cortisol and adrenaline keep your blood vessels constricted, which results in elevated blood pressure. An NIH study this year showed that people who don't recover quickly from stress have double the risk of future cardiac events. So basically, if you're staying in this constant stress state, it's increasing your likelihood to have a cardiac event. Outside of your cardiovascular health, there's also the metabolic side. What people don't realize is that the way that your body fuels whatever fight it thinks is coming from stress is using glucose. It's a fast form of energy for your body. So when you are constantly in a state of stress, your body is constantly pumping glucose into your bloodstream. And when that glucose isn't used, it's stored as visceral fat, which is the one that they say you really don't want to have too much of, like the ones around your organs. This in turn increases your risk for insulin resistance and diabetes. Stress can also have significant impacts on your brain and your mood. Chronic stress shrinks the hippocampus, which manages memory and emotion, and it also over amplifies another part of the brain called the amygdala, and the result of this is it magnifies fear. Chronic stress also can have a significant impact on hormones, particularly for women. Some of the ways in which it does this is through chronic cortisol release. It disrupts reproductive cycles, menstrual cycles, and thyroid function. Chronic stress also has an interesting impact on your immune response. If you have short bursts of stress, it can actually sharpen your immunity. But when you experience chronic stress, it does the exact opposite, which in turn leaves the body less responsive to viruses and vaccines. Overall, chronic stress it's not that it just makes us tired. It reprograms how our body allocates resources. Think of it kind of like our currently shut down government running on emergency funds. And here's the interesting thing. Similar to some of the other chronic conditions we discussed, whether it's endometriosis, PCOS, any form of metabolic condition or women's health really, is that while chronic stress is one of the things that significantly impacts the most leading causes of death and illness in America, it's very seldom discussed. The biggest risk are the least visible because for many people they just seem natural, a function of aging, or simply just not exciting enough for the nightly news. According to data collected from Media World, the CDC, and the Global Terrorism Index, our world and data captured causes of death versus media coverage. They found that while heart disease and cancer cause more than half of US deaths, together they account for only 7% of media coverage. Now, before you go jumping to any conclusions about what the purpose is of media, the fact that media is for profit, or just that you might think some of these other things are natural and less exciting. It's not a matter of right or wrong that homicides get 43 times more coverage and terrorism maybe 18,000 times more coverage. It's more to point out that the lack of awareness of invisible illnesses is systemically perpetuated due to their lack of sensationalism. Basically, in some ways, they're being normalized. Chronic illnesses tied to stress don't make headlines because they're slow, complex, and ongoing. But this invisibility has significant consequences. When we don't see stress as a driver of disease, we don't build systems to prevent it. But in reality, the cost of stress shows up everywhere, in productivity, in healthcare spending, and in emotional bandwidth. Right now, 9 out of 10 healthcare dollars go towards chronic and mental health conditions. Behind those numbers are millions of people, not necessarily in crisis, just constantly depleted. This chronic stress quietly erodes performance, increases turnover, and drives up medical claims. Our economy is constantly running on overdraft, and not just financially, also when it comes to our individual energy. We're left constantly borrowing from tomorrow to pay for today. And what we're left with is this debt that accumulates that ends up looking like burnout, cardiovascular disease, and metabolic disorders. And because we don't see stress until it becomes illness, we treat the outcome instead of the cause. And the result is, whether it's individuals, families, or we end up paying for the same invisible problem over and over and over again. So, all right, yeah, stress is a problem, obviously, but what can we realistically do about it, whether it's individuals or organizations? Let's start by saying this: chronic stress isn't just a personal issue. It's very much so systemic in that it's literally a design flaw, even though I'm pretty sure it was intentional, in how we live and work. That being said, here are some things you can consider if you're looking to better manage your own stress, or you want to help better manage stress within your organization. One of the first things you can do is to start thinking about stress the same way you might think about movement or calories or sleep or your steps. And I know you might be saying, hey, I don't want to have to track another thing. But what's important to understand specifically are your patterns, energy dips, your sleep cycles, and recovery time. Basically, what you're trying to get a handle and awareness of are what are the things that might trigger stress, and what are some ways in which you are or are not able to recover as quickly. And those are the things you want to focus on addressing. Another simple way you can also begin to address this is to where you are able to build in more recovery time into your day or life. And some people might think this means devoting this extra hour, extra day, or extra week or weekend, but it doesn't have to start that way. It can start with giving yourself an extra 5 minutes. It can be a hard cutoff time for messages at night. It can be intentionally spending 10 minutes of your lunch break away from your desk. And it can just be focusing on feeding and nourishing your body through quality foods, movement, and rest. If you feel like this is something that you may need more help or support with, we do have tools. You can explore some of the Quell tools, like our Breaking Barriers workbook, or our reset program. We also do a weekly grounding hour reset session on Sundays where it's free to join. It's on YouTube and it just gives you an opportunity to reset, reconnect with yourself, and refocus for the week ahead. If you manage a team or if you're in a workplace, some things to be aware of is that chronic stress is one of the main drivers of absenteeism, even more than acute crisis. So one of the things you want to consider is being more transparent about workload, expectations, work hours, and boundaries, and being respectful of them. Wellworthy Teams helps organizations integrate nutrition, stress education, and behavior tools into everyday operations, supporting both health and retention. Lastly, these are just a few suggestions, but I would always say one of the first places you can go is either to a mental health professional or to your doctor to start and get a better understanding of where you are, how some of these metrics are measuring, and steps you can take to move forward, because these things that I'm sharing, while they will help, every person is unique and you may have unique needs that require both individual and clinical support. Chronic stress is expensive to our bodies, our relationships, and our bottom lines. Seeing it is a step one, but acting on it together is how we can help to reduce the costs. And I'm not just talking about the financial one. If you want to learn more about how you can better support reducing chronic stress in your life or in your workplace, visit us at eatwell.com/wellworthy. Otherwise, thank you for joining us for the Wellworthy Weekly, and we'll see you next week.